All right. Tim, man, welcome to have you on the show. And I can't wait to talk about this subject of health. Um, I I felt a little unhealthy this weekend. I'm not gonna lie. I wonder if you've ever felt this way, dude. So I'm coaching my 6-year-old in baseball, and it's intense, dude. Like I'm out there like coaching and yelling and like getting kids organized and situated. And like after an hour and a half game, like I'm exhausted. Like I'm literally like exhausted, just mentally, like completely like done. Like we come home and I'm just like, don't talk to me. I need like a nap for the rest of the afternoon. I'm done. And like, so I've had this goal. Like, if, I never want to tell my kids that I'm tired, like when they ask me to play with them. But like just recently, man, I've just been like worn out from just like mentally exhaustion from like coaching 6-year-old baseball. I don't know. Have you ever had that experience?
Well, first, it's awesome to be on the show, guys. But yeah, I'm coming off of a career of Ironman triathlon where I'm training 34 hours a week, 30 to
Yeah.
40 hours a week. And now I'm kind of just in that dad role. And I feel the same thing. I'm just like, oh my God, I'm so tired right now. I don't even understand. I could be on an 8-hour ride and feel better than I do right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think with if with parents, if you can maybe give each other 15, 20 minutes here or there to just like get some quiet and like power nap. It's really important, keeping the energy going. And you don't have to let the kids know that you need a break. Just have your wife distract them.
That's right. Yeah, I kind of feel like a sissy talking to an Ironman professional athlete, just saying I'm tired after coaching 6-year-old baseball. But hey,
I
we're
mean,
all about
would it be fair, Stu, though? Would it be fair to say we could have any guest on, not doesn't necessarily have to be a professional athlete, and you'd feel like a sissy? I mean, is that like a fair kind of assessment, or is that
no, I don't think so.
no? Okay, I just
No.
want hey, dude, I'm not saying anything. I just am asking a question. It's a framed as a question, and I just want to make sure that
Have you
we.
ever felt this way, David? Have you ever felt mentally exhausted after coaching your
Oh
your
yeah, dude.
10-year-old football team?
Yeah, yeah, all the time. Well, so it's interesting because I now have um, so I'm now coaching both boys, their flag teams on Sundays. And I'll tell you, the little guys, man, it was exhausting. It was absolutely exhausting. And then my older boy, experienced something new for me here. We actually mercy ruled the other team. So this is the first year I've had kids join my team. It's not been just a complete goat rope.
Yeah,
This is
weren't you like
it
0
was
and 10
actually
last year?
organized. Oh, dude, it was terrible. And then yesterday I was like, oh, this is what this feels like to actually be
To win?
competitive and even win.
Yeah.
It was good, but I want to apologize to all of our listeners beforehand if you're watching on YouTube, if the video or the audio is coming in kind of scratchy, kind of crappy. Timothy does have a Celtics jersey on the wall behind him, and that probably causes some kind of interference and just some overall nastiness. So
All
I
it
just
is
want to
doing,
make
it's
sure I
it's just
caveat
putting
that.
greatness. It's putting greatness out to everybody that's listening or watching right now. And you're
That's
welcome.
true.
You're
Thank you for
welcome.
that. Thank you for that. Yeah, as a diehard West Coast for life, Lakers, Celtics, man, that's rough for me to look at. But you guys have a great team this year, and I wish you the best of luck because I think you guys can make a solid run. So it'll be good.
This has got to be the year. It's got to be the year.
Hey, man. Speaking of solid runs, tell us about you, Timothy. I think your story is fascinating. Not only Nail Academy grad, I was gonna give you a hard time. I was telling Stu if you're an O2 guy, I was be like waiting on my classmates, sir, because I wanted to highlight not to call you out. You're about a minute late to the call, so I just want to throw that out there to be on time. To be realistic, to be on time. But all joking aside, Naval Academy grad, and you obviously have had a distinguished career as a triathlete, but you also had some significant barriers and hurdles and things that you've overcome. So, hey, let's dive in. Tell us a little about yourself.
Yeah, so graduated from the Naval Academy 2003 and was on the swim team there. But when I was at the academy, my older brother was a first team my plebe year, and he actually gave me an order to try out for the triathlon team. And I did not want anything to do with triathlon. I did one my senior year of high school. Actually, I did the West Point triathlon. It was my first triathlon ever. And I remember first out of the water, obviously, distance swimmer. And I remember all the guys on the Navy team coming by me on the bike. Everybody. I was on like a 1987 Schwinn with down tube shifting. This is my brother's bike from he was like seventh grade or something. And they're all going by. Don't worry, Timmy. We'll teach you how to ride a bike. And 20
That's
something years
awesome.
later, I found I figured out how to ride a bike. But it was when he made me try out for the tri team. that this whole thing kind of started. Really, it was my entire adult life has been, swimming, biking, and running, which is pretty crazy. But I didn't like it at first. Swam my first 2 years, and then second class year decided to just fully commit to the triathlon club team and led the Naval Academy guys to 2 national championships, and kind of skyrocketed me from there. So it's been pretty fun.
And now,
And
what did you, what did you service select, and how did that, when did you like go professional, and how'd that whole transition go?
Yeah, I have the most amazing, probably, naval career of anybody. My older brother Thomas is still in. He's the Commodore Subgroup 12 right now, and he's like Mr. Navy. Like, he's the man. But his little brother went took a turn off the highway. So I qualified for the immediate graduate education program. So I actually went to Cal Berkeley right after commissioning, and there I had the chance to race on the Navy sports team, and race at the Armed Forces National Championship. Won the 2 titles when I was at Berkeley, and I caught the attention of Navy sports and my commanding officer. I had service selected EOD, explosive ordnance disposal, and the guy, the Commodore of EOD Group 1 in San Diego, my eventual boss, found out about my story, and he's like, "Man, this is awesome. We got to support this guy." So they sent me to dive school, and then they kind of stashed me at Group 1, and I had already been selected for the U.S. national team for USA Triathlon, and they sent me to Olympic Training Center. So I was kind of on TAD at the Olympic Training Center through 2008, and just missed the trials. And my department head in Coronado was like, "Tim, you're way behind your year group. You have a gift in this sport. You should go out and chase that dream." And I was really on the fence because I'd gone to the Navy, was supposed to be doing special ops, and I hadn't really done what I was supposed to go do. And Kevin, my department head, said, you didn't write your orders. You served us well. You did what we asked you to do. We're really proud of you. Now go out there and go make a name for yourself. And that was my launching pad.
that's awesome, man. So you got out, what, at the 5-year mark, or did you get out even before that?
No, just after the 5-year mark. So I got out at the end of '08.
Okay.
And
Okay.
I moved to Boulder. I went from Colorado Springs, moved to Boulder, said I have about this much money saved to maybe last a year and a half, and I got to make it. I hadn't really performed at the level my training had indicated I should be performing. So it was kind of this like, hey, this is it. It's make or break it time. And I ended up amazing training block that winter and won my first professional race in May of that year. And from there, won a world championship at the end of the year, and just kept building.
Wow. I'm just curious, a professional triathlete, like in the peak of your racing and training, like what is a typical day? Like what does a racing training regimen look like for you on a regular basis?
When I was in it, when I was getting ready for, the Ironman World Championship, and for those unfamiliar with the Ironman, it's a 1.2 mile swim, 2.4 mile swim for full Ironman, a 112-mile bike, and then a marathon, a 26.2 mile run at the end. And the World Championships in Kona, Hawaii. So it is hot. You're running at 2 p.m. The ground temperature coming off the lava rock and the pavement, it's like 130. It's no joke. So, training for that, I honestly was doing 34-hour weeks, 30 to 40-hour weeks. I was doing, up to 8-hour bike rides, 160-mile rides, followed by 10-mile runoff. And you're doing easily 2 to 3 sessions every day, and then all your body maintenance and gym work and all that. So it is very consuming. And I always joke that triathlon has the worst ROI in terms of prize money you can earn versus hours you have to train. It's getting better though.
That's crazy. So, and is that something, can you, as a professional triathlete and Ironman, is that something that you can live off of that? Or did you have to also try to supplement that some other way?
It's, triathlon is still a very niche sport.
Hmm.
And if you are at the top, you can make a good living, but it's hard. And there's not a lot of money to go around, to be honest. Luckily, my wife, Marinda, and I, both did very well in our careers. So we're on that fortunate group that we're able to really truly make it careers, and did it for 20 years. But if you're just starting out in the sport, it's really hard. You're trying to coach, or you're, some sort of side gig, or you're sleeping on couches just to make it by. And I think honestly, that was one of the reasons I was so successful, is because I had the support of the Navy and the Armed Forces at the very beginning, and it afforded me the opportunity to just focus and train, and that gave me a huge step above my peers.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. I love that. I love that story. I love the support that your command gave you to recognize the gift and really support you in doing that. And so you did triathlon. How give us some context. How long did you do that? And then you transition kind of when, and what are you doing now?
So yeah, I just kind of wrapped up my career. I had some heart issues in 2021, which I'm sure we'll dive into, and that I was on an upward trajectory. I just, you know, had my greatest result, the Ironman World Championship, fastest American ever, first American to break 8 hours. And then, COVID came, and then this incident happened, which really just threw everything, head over feet. So I was able to come back, and I knew that, hey, you know what? Triathlon isn't everything. I've got 3 beautiful kids now. It's time to focus. So at the end of last year, I was kind of started my transition to who knows what.
Well, let's dive in, man, because this is a topic that I've been interested in, selfishly, just for my own health. But we have a close friend that recently had some heart health challenges, issues, and I think it's something that a lot of men don't even realize, or know how to look for it, how to see signs, what to do to have a healthy heart. And someone like you, a professional triathlete, like, has a heart attack. Like, how is that even possible, right? So can we dive in? Like, let's give us the backstory and tell us what happened in 2021, and then let's kind of probably have some questions from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, 2021, as I mentioned, I'm kind of coming off my greatest performance at the end of 2019. We had all this time in 2020 where we're all staring at each other. What do we do? And 2021 was when we were coming back, and I was at a race in Miami. It was actually on the Homestead Speedway, the NASCAR track. It's a pretty cool venue. And I had the chance to race Jan Frodeno, the German who won the World Championship in 2019, beat me, and it was my chance. All right, here we go. We're coming back. Me and Jan, we've had some good battles. And I just didn't feel right at the beginning. I've been kind of having some breathing issues and some tightness in the chest. When I would do open water swim training, I would actually start to almost like hyperventilate. And it's just things weren't right. So at the end of 2020, I'd actually run a whole bunch of tests with the cardiologist here in Boulder. And they're like, well, there's nothing really, everything seems fine. So they just kind of sent me on my way. But, about halfway through the race, had a great swim. I was in a small group with Jan and like 2 other guys who were off the front. And halfway through the ride, I just started getting this spreading pain in my chest and a shooting pain down my left arm. My jaw started to get really tight. And I thought to myself, this isn't the normal race pains that you would have. And then I thought, is this a heart attack? And, the competitor in me is like, yeah, surely not. You wouldn't be able to be up here in the front of this race with some of the greatest in the world right now if you were having a heart attack. So just back it off, see how you feel, and keep going. And I did that. I kept going. Things started getting worse. I actually got off the bike a lap early because I didn't know where I was. It was a 17-lap bike around the NASCAR track, and kept going, was running, just trying to run. And, my son, my second child, Finn, was 8 weeks old at the time. And I was kind of motivated, like, let's get a paycheck here, top 10. And I was just really fighting, but, I'm trying to push on the run, and I felt like my legs felt fine. I'm like, I can't go any faster. I can't breathe. I was just kind of mad at myself. Finished the race, tried to rally for the after party. And I just, I couldn't even stand up. And I called my wife, and she said, you need to call our doctor. I called my doctor, Dave, and he's like, Tim, you need to take aspirin and you need to get to the hospital right now. And it turns out, yeah, I had a almost complete block of my LAD, which is known as the widowmaker, and about 12% survival rate. And they rushed me to a better hospital. and ended up putting a big stent in, clearing the block. And the first thing the cardiologist in Miami said to me when he finished the surgery was, well, I guess you'll have to find a new career. And in that moment, my whole world was like, what just happened? They told me, oh, we're just going to go check things out. And now, he's telling me my life is going to be completely changed.
Yeah, that's fascinating, and I want to talk about the comeback as well, because what an inspiration. But I want to let's anchor on this for a sec.
Mm-hmm.
What I guess tell us, kind of give us context on how this even happens, right? And like you said, because I actually have a dear friend whose father, super fit runner for life, and he was on a run, and this happened. Not I mean, just a complete stud, a little bit older guy, and then like you said, widowmaker. I mean, it's
Yep.
literally what it was for their family. It was a widowmaker, and I'm just curious how does this happen? Like, give us some educate us on why this is even a thing.
Well, there's obviously a couple things at play. Number one, if your body builds up calcium, it builds up in kind of the anterior wall of the artery. It's soft or unstable plaque. So you need to have that unstable plaque build up, and then you need to have the rupture of the artery wall. So there has to be that compromise of the artery wall, and those are the kind of the two things that happen. Now the LED is interesting, that particular spot in the heart, because it's and I learned this, with the doctors I worked with after the fact, but at that particular point, it's like the highest, like most forceful blood flow. So a lot of times they don't know why, in endurance athletes, they do see plaque buildup at that spot. But honestly, a lot of it's hereditary. You just have, you're predisposed. And I've done a ton of genetic tests, and I had all these red flags for this exact case. I started looking through my family history, beyond my dad, and, further generations down. And there was a lot of cardiovascular disease and deaths from the same thing. So honestly, I think looking at your family history is a big part of it all.
And I think that's a big deal. And I'm looking at this from a different perspective. My dad passed from cancer. My brother, my oldest brother, then, he had a bout with cancer, and I'm like, man, I need to probably take this a little more seriously, because a lot of it, I think there's assumptions, right? Well, you're unhealthy, you're overweight, you're whatever. Well, clearly that was not a contributor to your situation. And I find it fascinating. I appreciate you saying it, because it also gives permission for people to be like, to move beyond the, man, I work out, I'm fit, I eat well. Yeah, there's more at
Yeah.
play though, right? Like, I had a doc tell me very similarly with cholesterol. He's like, dude, like, you're most likely fighting a losing battle, and you could be the most fit dude in the world. It's genetics. Genetics is the battle that's really, and that was, for me, it was a hit, because immediately I'm like, oh, he's saying I'm fat and I'm this and I'm that, and he's like, dude, chill out, man. Like, you just might have to be on meds, right? But I think you saying that, the professional athlete who's absolutely fine-tuned the body into a machine to perform, this genetic thing is a serious thing, right? And we should just take it seriously with the, as we look at our holistic health. One of the things we talk about in Kinetic Man, one of the primary things we talk about in our Connect Life Circle is health. And that's, I think, a very important aspect to it, right? Acknowledging these other factors at play, because ultimately they could kill you. And a lot of them are not necessarily life choices per se.
Yeah, absolutely. And I had this same thought on the bike when this was happening to me. How could this be happening to me, right? I'm literally one of the fittest guys in the world right now. How can this be happening to me? And as you step back, you have to realize that fitness is not health. They're two completely different things. And once you can come to terms with that, I think it helps you dive in and understand, hey, you know, I obviously want to be fit, and that does help your health. Being physically active is a huge part of being healthy. But there are other factors like, family history and genetics. And, I'm not a doctor, and everything I say is an opinion, but you do need to dive deep into a lot of this stuff, and you have to take it on your own shoulders. You got to be the captain of your own ship, because, you know, even the medical attention you get from a doctor might be very superficial. Like, they may test your cholesterol, but hey, that isn't your total cholesterol or your LDL may not be the number one, um, you know, identifier for being at risk, right? Are you doing deeper dives? Are you looking at your ApoB? Are you looking at the size of the small LDL particles? The size of the particles is a huge part of it. And I stumbled upon a company called Clearly after my incident, and they actually do heart scans that can show you the different plaques, which you can't do on a normal heart scan, right? So you can actually see, oh, I have unstable plaque, and you can see where it's trending. So now I'm doing this, and I have comparisons, and then they use AI and historical data they have to model out and project your risk factors. So for me, last year I did my second scan, and I saw, hey, my unstable plaque is actually getting stable, which is awesome, right? And my risk factor was really low for another incident. So we have tremendous amount of data and technology out there that can really help us, but we have to almost search it out. And I had to mention this test to my cardiologist because my primary care doc had actually told me about it, right? So when I mentioned it to my cardiologist, he's like, "Whoa, look at you!" Like, all right, yeah. He's like, "Yeah, we can do that." But there are so many opportunities really to focus on longevity and health span, whether it's like blood testing, like Inside Tracker, where you can you can keep tabs on your progress quarterly or wherever you need to, and really follow trends. And I think that's the important part, because you can know something's wrong, but if you don't track it and you don't take action steps to improve it, then what's the point of knowing, right? So I think that's really important, is to be able to keep tabs. And my recent blood work, I had some markers that were not great, and I'm like, all right, here's a guy that almost died of a heart attack, and you still lose, as time goes on, you still lose track of what I need to be doing. So it was a good eye opener for me to be like, all right, you got to buckle down, you got to do this dietary changes, or you got to address this other problem. Like for me, thyroid function was off, and when your thyroid function's off, your body can't metabolize cholesterol, so your cholesterol is going to go up higher. So there's all these different factors that you really need to dive into, and a lot of times it takes some initiative on your part to make sure it happens.
And you just hit on a bunch of stuff that I have questions about. I listen to Peter Attia quite a
Mm-hmm.
bit, and he's big on life longevity, and he mentions a lot of stuff. I actually hired a coach last year, a health coach, because I had a little bit of a health scare too, and I just wanted to get back in peak performance, just for my family and for just showing up better. Um, can you kind of dive into some of this stuff so you mentioned, like, what are some of the things that we need to be intentional about, like seeking and going after and looking for? Because I know Peter Attia says cardiovascular disease is like the number one killer, right, in
It is.
America. It's like, what are some of, like, the blood tests? Like, what are we looking for? Like the ApoB and like all this kind of stuff that you mentioned. And then what are some of these resources, the Clearly, the Inside Tracker?
Yeah,
What is some of the stuff that we can send people and go check out on their own?
definitely. And a lot of people think that cardiovascular disease is really a male focused issue, but it's the number one killer for women in the United States as well. So this is something that we all really need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
And inside trackers, so you know thyroid, like I said, ApoB might be the best indicator for heart health. And then if you really want to even go further into that, you would need to do an advanced lipid panel through your doctor. And that's when you really, you're going deep into the weeds with all that. And I would recommend, you never want to go, you know, you never want to go all the way in. You take, do the first level test first, right? Get your inside tracker, get those numbers, and then go from there. You can, if there are warning signs, you might want to do those deeper tests to really, figure out if you need to keep digging. And then of course, family history, right? Like if you have a family history of issues in this space, then you should probably be a little more proactive.
And what does the Clearly heart scan specifically do?
So the Clearly Heart scan, it's kind of like a normal CT scan, but the AI that they have, it allows them to do modeling where they can actually differentiate for you the unstable plaque versus, a calcified plaque. So calcified plaque means that there's unstable plaque somewhere, right? Because it's unstable plaque that's been calcified. And so I always recommend, hey, start on more like a calcium scan level where you'll go in, get a score. If you have 0 calcium, then there's a much less, much lower risk of having unstable plaque in there. But if your calcium numbers are high from that scan, okay, instead of just going on a statin and being like, oh, you just got to lower cholesterol. And statins do help stabilize plaque, but maybe you want to look, do I have unstable plaque that needs to be taken care of or not? And that's where the clearly scan comes in. Because other than going in and doing an angiogram or angioplasty and going inside your heart and seeing, it's the best way to the only way to non-invasively know exactly what's going on in the arteries.
Yeah, so Timothy, I'm curious, and just to simplify it, break it down for us. So, just a guy off the street.
Yep.
I'm interested in heart health and wanting to, improve and maximize my performance, all that good stuff.
Yep.
What is just top 3 steps? So, step 1, you recommend, what?
If you have a history of or any indicators that you might be having issues, I would definitely obviously see your cardiologist, and they'll probably start you off with a stress test and calcium scan, and they'll do your blood work. I would ask from there, can we do a deeper dive into the blood work, or you do it on your own with something like Inside Tracker? And like I said, with the scan results, the calcium scan results, if there is an issue there, I would ask to do the clearly, because I mean, those are things that you're going to have to ask to do.
Yeah, no, that's good. Thank you for that. So had a heart attack, told to change careers, but as any good Naval Academy grad, probably were a bit hard-headed and stubborn and were like, no,
Yeah.
I'm gonna continue to do this thing. So what happened after that?
Well, I took a big break, and I had a moment in the hospital, and there was only one moment where they brought the resuscitation team in, because they're like, oh wow, this guy's actually having a massive heart attack right now, and we have to transport him to another hospital. We have to be ready to to bring him back in case he flatlines. And when those guys came in, I said, oh man, am I going to die? Is this it? And I immediately put that thought out of my head and focus on, nope, you got kids, you got an 8-week-old little baby that needs dad. And I think that was really helped me get through that whole situation. But immediately after, I just said, hey, whoa, let's take a moment, enjoy the family. So the family went camping the next week. We just went camping for a week and just be with each other. And from there, I said, okay, I love triathlon. I want to race, but I don't need it. If my career had to end right now, that's okay. My family is my priority, because if something happens to you, it's not your problem anymore, right? And that's the cold truth. It's your wife's problem. It's your kid's problem. So sometimes you have to remember, hey, this isn't just me that we're talking about. I'm affecting everybody around me with my decisions and choices. So, I talked to my wife, Marinda, and we said, okay, if we're going to find the best in the world, best cardiologists, best sports cardiologists, and if they say it's okay, then let's go. If there's any hesitation on their part, then we pack it up and we sail off into the sunset. And that's what we did. I went to BU. I saw Dr. Aaron Bagish, who's an absolute legend, and ran some tests with him. And he said, Tim, the part of your heart that's compromised is now, supported with Kevlar mesh and a stent, and it's stronger than any other part of your body. So that's not going to be an issue. I did have some scar tissue from the actual heart attack event, lack of blood flow. So I had to deal with that, which kind of hurts your ability to pump blood and, your VO2, your anaerobic and aerobic capability. But, it was minimal. But I said, all right, let's do it. And honestly, it's the mental part of getting back that was the hardest thing. But I was determined to get to the finish line of the Ironman World Championship one more time. Not to try to win at that point in life. Things happen and you need to be flexible, and your goals need to shift, right? And if you're trying to chase goals that don't make sense for where you are or who you are at that point, then you're going to only face failure. So, shifting your goals, shifting your mindset was a really big thing for me. And I did just that. And it was hard. It was really hard. Even getting back on the bike, I was on blood thinners for a while. So you got to be careful riding outside because, you get head trauma, you get, God forbid, you get hit by a car or whatever. It's not going to end well, with, you're not able to clot blood when you're on blood thinners. So there's all these things and going along my head, and just even that question, should I be doing this? Do I need to be doing this? Is this going to hurt me? And the further away you get from the information, the harder it is to know that it's okay. Dr. Aaron Bagish, he knows that I'm going to be fine. The more I talk to him, interact with him, I'm like, okay, I start to get convinced I'll be fine. My wife and my mom, further away from the information, absolutely scared to death. I mean, my mom was texting Rinny, my wife is her nickname. And when I was on the course in Kona, she's like, oh my God, like, I can't believe you're watching this. I don't know how you're doing this. She was just mortified that I was just going
Yeah.
to drop over on the course. So I think, learning as much as you can, getting educated and realizing that it's okay, it was really important. And I talk to a lot of people that have had incidents, and a lot of them are scared to get back to training. So I think it's important to know that, hey, continuing to work out even after an incident like that is so important. You have to do it. And it's hard to get over, but you just need to know that this is where you need to go, and time heals all wounds, right? So as you keep pushing through, things will get better.
Yeah, and something you said earlier that really resonated, and it comes back now, as you said, fitness is not health. And I love how you said that because, one of the things that we really highlight is health includes spiritual health, mental
Yep.
health, relational health. Like there are a lot of areas, and the studies show that if you're not healthy, specifically relationally, that is more detrimental than smoking. What is it? Uh, Pack a day, or whatever, 15 cigarettes a day, I think was
Yeah,
the
15 cigarettes
actual
a day.
stat. is
Wow,
is
that's crazy.
So the data that's coming out from all the different, the true holistic approach to health, and what you're talking about here, it really, again, it really resonates because to me you're speaking a lot to resiliency and mental health. It goes well beyond a bike, swimming, and running, right? And I'm just curious, how did you, I think that, that's an area that we're starting to see it. We're trending negative as a
Yep.
society. Is that the resiliency and our ability to work through adversity? And I'm just curious, where did that mental aspect of health come into play? Was that something that you had to develop? Even when you said you made a conscious choice, okay, the idea of me dying right now, like there's more important things. I got to put that out of mind and focus elsewhere. I'm just curious where that came from.
Honestly, I think it stems back to my childhood and my parents. I have amazing parents, and I struggle right now because life is so easy for everybody, right? And I think as parents, like you need to be on your kids to make sure they have some adversity as children, because that builds your resiliency and that builds your ability to keep pushing. And I'm the youngest of four, two older brothers, and nothing was easy for me, right? They never, if we played 2-on-2, no one let up for the young kid, like, the little brother, like, no, you got to learn, you got to fight. And that's how my whole upbringing was, trying to keep up with my brothers, and, just it, never winning, but never quitting at the same time. And that's why I became a distance swimmer. I just wanted to work hard. And that's why I started doing Ironmans, because I wanted to test myself. You alluded to it earlier. There's so many different levels, right? Physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally. And yeah, I just think a lot of it came from that upbringing and really strong parents.
So how do we continue to push that on our children? How do we, you know, living, pretty good lives, having
Yep.
money, having, wealth, and how do we offer that value to our children in a way that they get those same results?
So this is funny, Stu. I ice bath. I'm a big cold plunge guy,
Okay.
and I was in the cold plunge this morning, and my oldest two, Isabel and Finn, were out there like sitting on the edge, dipping their hands in. And my son's like, "Why do you do this?" And I said, "Well, sometimes you just have to do hard things in life. And right now, I'm not racing. Kind of my whole I'm not training as much as I used to. I still need hard things, and we all need hard things. So I think kind of showing them that, hey, hard things are okay. And then as they get older, I think you have to, if they commit to something, you got to push them through it. I was chatting with a friend of mine, and his daughter is a runner, and they have this 100-mile run club where you log, you get, so many days of the school year or whatever to hit 100 miles. And he's like, where are you? And she's like, oh, I'm only at 48 miles. And he's like, what? You're less than you did last year. You're going the wrong way. You committed to this. Let's go. And like, all right, put you on a schedule. And if you make goals or you set goals, let's make a plan to achieve those goals and be there to support them through that process and kind of show them that, hey, when we start something, we finish. If you don't like it, hey, you don't like swimming. Well, we started the season. You're going to get to the end of the season, and then we'll figure something out. But right now, you're swimming until that last meet.
I love it, man. I love it. Yeah, to further the idea of the cold plunge, I know a lot of people do it for just like social media hype and
Yeah,
that kind
yeah.
of stuff. But I try to. I haven't gotten into the cold plunge yet, but I've been doing saunas a whole lot more. And I know
Hmm.
that is really good for heart health as well. What are
Yep.
some of the other recommendations that you have for things like that, right? Saunas, cold plunges, vitamin supplements, nutrition. Is there anything else that you would give as a recommendation for, for us middle-aged men to make
Yeah,
sure
yeah,
we're healthy?
definitely. You're absolutely right on the saunas with the heart health. That's huge. And they show studies where I think it was in Sweden they do a lot of like sauna, and
Yeah.
their heart health is way better than ours.
Yeah.
Obviously, you got to be smart on your diet. Most cholesterol is produced in the liver, so diets can have uh, they can have some effect. I expected all the doctors to tell me I need to go vegan, and none of them said that. Which was even the naturopath I saw said no, which was really interesting for me. I think getting micronutrients in, like I do, my morning routine is athletic greens, cold plunge, and then I'll eat later. I think intermittent fasting is really good for overall health. Stress is the thing I think for heart health. Honestly, I mean, I was in a really stressed out time. I mean, my heart attack was going to happen, right? But uh, I had our baby 8 weeks out from that race. 4 weeks later, our house flooded from a burst pipe. And then I'm trying to go race the world champion. Like it was too much. It was going to happen at one point, but that whole stress really kind of brought everything to a head. Supplement wise, um, CoQ10, obviously great for heart health. Um, there's some niacin iron, like there's niacin's always been considered great for heart health. Now there's some question on whether niacin's a great supplement. Red rice yeast is great for natural cholesterol. Plant sterols also great for natural cholesterol management. I use a product called Arterial Protect from Life Extension, and I think that's really important for keeping the arterial. Remember, I mentioned there's two issues. There's the buildup of plaque, but then there's the compromising of your arterial walls. That kind of helps keep those walls strong and healthy. Yeah, I think that's probably probably some of the main ones to really focus on. Fish oil, obviously, is great.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. And I think, excuse me, one of the things you keep going back to is just awareness, proactivity, right? Being
Hmm.
aware, being curious. Um, and I'll tell you when you talked about, I think a lot of us would also do really well to look at the things that are important to us, look at the people that are important to us, and be like, okay, move beyond the selfish reasons of health, and also I think acknowledge how important we are to those around us,
Yeah,
right? Whether it's our kids, whether it's our family, where it's for you, it's your coaching clients, it's the people that look up to you, it's the people that seek your advice, the people that listen to this podcast are going to potentially get some insights that could save their life, right? And so I think it's just critical to continue to be curious, but also to recognize, hey man, how do I maximize this? One of the things I love about Peter Attia, since we were talking about him, he's like, man, I'm like the longevity guy. He's like, but I don't want to live 100 years and be completely unhealthy and like my quality of life is low. He's like, if I get a solid 70 years and it's like high quality, he's like, dude, that's awesome. That's great.
yeah,
And I think people they kind of miss that, right? They think if I live to 100, like that's the goal. No, dude, if you're in a walker for the last 20 years and you're senile and all the different things that could ail you, like that's not high quality of life, right? And so I think, maximizing this quality aspect of it and really focusing on that now that we could do something about it, ideally at the age that we're at now and earlier, to prolong that joy and that quality, I think is critical, which, you
Yeah.
highlight and you made I think a very important, you kind of, you touched on it and went on, but I imagine from an identity perspective, choosing to stop this thing that has been such a focus, and you've been world renowned in this thing, right? In this professional athlete space. I imagine it wasn't just like, oh man, it's not everything. Triathlon's not everything. But that was probably a little bit more difficult to work through, right? Than just deciding that. But it's critical that you did that and you found something more important, namely your kids and the things that you're, looking forward to. Well, ideally with a higher ROI for
Yeah.
your time.
And I think when my wife and I have always really tried to not let our sport or our accomplishments be our identity. And we see this all the time with retiring professional athletes. When that's the case, it gets hard and depression is a real issue. And it's very, very similar to when you're moving, retiring from the military or you're getting out of the military. You not only were you so identified with this thing you did that you no longer get to be a part of, but also now what? I'm 43. I've been riding my bike around town all for 20 years. Like the chances of me going back to med school or going to, get going to law school, it's probably not going to happen. But like, what do you do now? Like it doesn't, my racing career doesn't necessarily transition into another job. It's not like, oh, I just, some other company picks me up. Right. So there is all that you have to deal with. And yeah, luckily we see ourselves in a different light, and that we're not just, we're not just a result. We're not just a win or, podium, we're a couple and we're mom and dads. And I think that's really important.
Super important, man. Love it. All right. Well, this is a good transition to what is next. What are you doing now, and what does the future look like? I know you're excited about some coaching yourself and getting on a different type of stage.
Yeah.
So tell us about what you're doing.
Yeah, right now I feel like I'm just saying yes to everything.
Nice.
I have this energy that made me successful in triathlon, where when I lock into something, it's all in. And right now, particularly my wife's telling me, don't lock in on anything quite yet, because we want you around and we don't want you, head down, doing all that other stuff. But we did. Rennie and I started Salty Bears Coaching, which is our triathlon specific coaching group. And most people assume, hey, you're going to coach other pros. Absolutely not. We want to coach. We're all about lifestyle. We want triathlon to enhance your life, not destroy it. And there's a joke within the sport that if you don't get divorced while you're training for an Ironman, you're not training hard enough. And with our training platform, that's not the case. We'll get you there. We'll make sure you still have date night, things like that. But yeah, we're looking for, moms, dads, husbands, and wives that really want to enhance their lives through the sport, which is a lot of fun. And then my other big focus is getting into public speaking. And I really want to share this story, not only of heart health, but of resiliency. And if you dig back throughout my career, it is about resiliency. I mean, I was the worst athlete in my family. I wasn't even the best athlete in my family, yet here I am 20 something years later, having a really amazing racing career as a professional, which is pretty cool. So those are my two focuses. I'm also, I love real estate. I'm doing a spec home project here in Boulder, and I do some, passive investing with long-term holds and, some short-term rentals, things like that. So I'm always looking for something to do.
Nice, man. I have to ask, what is Salty Bears? Where does that come from?
So my wife is from Australia, and we were looking for something that was kind of both of us, me, the Navy. So our logo is a koala bear on an anchor, and it's a little bit of Navy, and then the koala from Australia, and then salty. Hey, it means Navy or experience, and then obviously when you're out on the Ironman course, you are caked in salt. So we love that. We love, obviously, koalas aren't bears; they're marsupials, but everybody calls them koala bears, and we're in the US. Everybody in Australia is like, they're not bears, right? We're like, yes, we know that, but we're in the US. They're koala bears.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I love that. Well, dude, this is I could continue to talk this. I think one of the things that really excites me is what you just highlighted the uh, a not singular focus to be so myopic in our views on things that are important, which clearly, if you're doing triathlon, whatever you're doing, whatever your focus is, but you hit it right. You said, but we're not trying to get rid of date night, right? Like we're making sure these
Yeah.
things, we're making sure there's a balance because I think, there's to since Stu and I really started focusing on this and we got a lot we're similar to you in that, hey, I'm going to try to say yes to all these things. And when we started saying no, we started saying yes to quality of life and no to just busy and more and more and more.
Yeah.
I'll tell you, like everything has changed, right? Even I was laying in bed with my son last night, super sensitive kid. And he was just, we had a death in the family and he was just crying over this loss. But it's interesting because he didn't really know the guy and he's just a sensitive guy. He still cries for my dad who died, years ago, which is beautiful. But what it really struck me is I was like, man, I really have to be conscious. What happens if it's me, like someone that is daily in his life, right? And it really changed. I would not have thought about that before. But to your point, is it really emphasizing that what is the impact I have within this house? What is the impact I have on this human being? What is the impact I have in my relationships? Who no longer gets encouraging phone calls from me? Who's not training me to do something that is incredibly important in my life, triathlon? Not me. I'm not speaking of myself anymore. But the people you're training, but also emphasizing, hey, dude, you have a beautiful family right there too. Like let's prioritize. Let's look at this because fitness is not health. And dude,
Absolutely.
I love that you said that because I'm gonna use that for forever because it really I think we lose that, man. I think we lose it because we're so focused. Yes, physical health and six packs and all that kind of stuff are super important. Big biceps. I'm Stu. You can ignore all that, but in all reality, we get lost in that, and a lot of us get stuck in the gym and we get sucked in, and we think that's going to improve everything else. And in reality, that's not health, right? And so I love that you said that, man. And I wish you the best of luck in this new and in these new endeavors. And I think that there's you've already decided that you're going to succeed because you've defined that. And so the next step, whatever it is, and that identity and how you're going to serve others is so powerful that, dude, I'm excited for you and your family and your wife. It's pretty awesome.
Oh,
I'm not
thank you so
excited for your
much.
kids because they've got two parents that are ultra endurance athletes. So they've got some serious resilience training in their future, I believe. And you're in
Golf and
Boulder.
tennis. We're gonna get him in golf and tennis.
There
Let's
you
get those
go.
scholarships going,
There
right?
you go.
That's right.
Scholarships, baby. I love it. I love it. No, it's great, man. I'm super excited for you guys and what a fun conversation. This has been insightful for me in a lot of different ways. So thank you
Oh,
for that.
thank you so much. Yep.
Hey Tim, where do we send people to go find out more about you if you're looking for some speakers to come and talk on their stage?
Yeah, you can go to saltybears.co and you can find everything you need, whether coaching or speaking. All your needs from Tim and Rennie are there.
Awesome, man. Well, we'll put that in the show notes of this podcast. Hey, guys and gals, this is really important stuff. Check out Tim. Go reach out to him. And he's offered to some of our friends already that if you want to talk more about this stuff, specifically heart health, reach out to him because he's a wealth of information. And take this stuff seriously because it is serious. Let's all go
Absolutely.
take uncommon action together. See ya. Thanks, Tim.
Thanks, Tim.